Nick.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. So what I am going to do is I am going to mute everybody, but of course you guys can unmute yourselves if you need to throughout today's presentation. We certainly appreciate all of you being here. Last quarter, we talked about content marketing and the importance of having a website and a blog and sharing that content on Facebook. So today we're going to focus primarily on Facebook and give you a few tips and tricks for 2022 because as all of you probably know, social media is constantly changing. So we try to keep you on top of it and share the tips and tricks that we learn along the way. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a little shout out to the Michigan Mortgage team. There's a few of them on this call today, so I just wanted them to have the opportunity to say hello. So from Team Garrison, we have Rob and Jill, and then David. And then from Team Laner, we have Jill and Jason. So I am here obviously to handle any of those marketing questions, but I brought the experts on today should you guys have questions about the market or interest rates or what they're seeing. And they are also here to give a quick market update. So David, whenever you're ready, you can take it away and kind of share with us what you're seeing out there.
You want me to share my screen? Oh. Wait one sec. Blacked out. There we go. That's it. All right, so we have a little bit of a market forecast update, housing market update, all the good things. Let me get to the next slide. I have a little bit of a weird view right now, so let me see, or let me know if you can see what I'm seeing. So next slide. See a forecast. So first thing, interest rates. We were forecasted at the beginning of 2022 to see a little bit of a rise, and that was pretty evident with how low it started. We were expected to see a rise in the beginning with a hopeful fall going into late summer to the fall time. We did actually see that through March. We are somewhere in the fours, and I'll go into all the numbers a little bit later, but we did see a sharp rise through the beginning of this year, especially in March. Now we're changing every day, which is very, very much anticipated. And we're also seeing a steady increase from that mark. I don't know if it was super anticipated, but we are continuing to rise here. And like I said, I'll go into why that is a little bit later as well. The other side of this thing is the housing market forecast. We know it's going to be strong demand with a tight supply. There's just not much out there just from COVID and supply chain backup. We're also supposed to see another single digit, as you can see here, single digit percentage increase in appreciation. It's good. And then the actual year, like I said, we're seeing a shortness in supply. There's the backlog of COVID problems. The reason for all this is mostly due to 2020, 2021, this is the election and all that. So,
David,
next,
you're
yep.
breaking up a little bit. Can everybody hear him okay? It looks like Rob went to help him figure out his audio. So I don't know if for those of you that if you caught what he said, didn't catch it, but essentially, the interest rates were forecasted to rise at the beginning of the year and then recover a little bit into the fall. And we saw just that so far, except, it's definitely been a very sharp increase through March. And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, or David, but I think rates right now, in the mid fours. And obviously those are, continuing to increase. And David, whenever you're ready, you can take it back over.
I'm figuring it out. Can you hear
Here
me
we
better
go.
now?
Yes, you sound great.
All right, I was hooked up to the external monitor, so how does this look? Better? Awesome, cool. So right where I left off, interest rate forecast. I heard Courtney chime in a little bit. We're in mid fours, getting even higher today. I mean, the market changes every day, somewhere in the 4.625 range. Let me just click through this to give you guys a better picture. There we go. So we are expected to see these things to continue to rise. We're probably going to see them touch 5 sometime in the summertime. But what I said, we're hopeful to see a little bit of a dip come late summer to fall, back down to the 4. The reason for this is mentioned a little bit, but the Feds are catching up with what happened the last couple of years. So rates are so low, now they're trying to catch up. They're raising rates, hopefully come back down once we're back to it, adjusted and back to normal. So next slide here. I wanted to show how this would affect your buyers a little bit. So with raised home prices and with raised interest rates, buyers or mortgage payments have actually increased about 28% just in the last year. This affects the debt to income ratio because the wages have only increased 6%. So just a cool visual, and we can print all this out for you just to show buyers in the future, just to see of why it is better to buy now. So that was a cool graphic I wanted to show. The other one I wanted to show was the rent versus buy calculation. I ran it on a 9-year summary here. I ran it at a $250,000 sales price, which is about a 2-bed, 2-bath, 3-bed, 2-bath, depending on where you're at, which is what I use for the rent figure. The big number you want to pay attention to here is the cash flow difference just in 9 years. It's going to be about $34,000. And that's not even considering the equity you're going to be gaining with the appreciation. Like I said before, we can print all these graphs off for you. They're great to show buyers. How am I doing on time, Courtney? I got 2 more slides. Perfect. Housing forecast. So we are going to remain strong. This is all pulled off the website, not as strong as 2021. We don't really know, but I think we're going to feel a lot of this backup from COVID and the supply chain just a little bit more in this year, just with building and stuff like that. But the good news is demand will actually slightly soften just because of these increased values, these increased interest rates. Buying power will actually go down just because of these buyers just don't have as much buying power because their wages have only increased so much and the demand or the supply has shortened. And then, yeah, just down here, you can see, like I said, the rates will continue to rise, probably touch 5 by the end of the year. So that's a little bit of that. I do have a graph on the next page. All right, oops. Can you guys see this? All right, so with the appreciation, and I need to, give me 2 seconds here. So this is basically just showing, even with rates or the current appreciation being so high, we're still expected to see about, you can see your forecasted into historical, we're still expected to see about a 4.5% appreciation increase over the next 5 years. And like I said before, these graphs can be printed for you. And then this bottom one is just the cumulative after the closing cost, which is basically your initial investment after about 5 years, you're going to have $70,000 more in equity if you do purchase. And I believe that is the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone want me to go back on these graphs? Rob, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to add the key piece to this, to what's going to happen this year has to do with inflation and what the Fed is doing. So the Fed announced yesterday that they're going to aggressively try to control inflation. And the way they do that is they increase the Fed rate. That affects the overall interest rates. And they're talking about doing that 6 times this year. They're also talking about, they normally do it at 0.25% increments. They're talking about doing it at 50 basis points. So the market has rates have gone up like 3 times in the last like 24 hours. So that's the big thing. And the inflation is a big problem for the economy. Obviously, they waited too long probably to start raising these things. It is necessary, and it is it is a good thing for ultimately will be a good thing for everybody. But in the short term, we just need to know that, hey, this is going to be a volatile market and people are going to get frustrated with this. However, just make sure that you talk to your clients about the fact that, hey, interest rates on a historical perspective are still very, very low. I saw a interesting post on social media today that showed 11% interest rates back in whatever it was when we started in the business in the late 90s. They were like 11%. So historically, they're still very, very good. And you're going to see some volatility here in the next probably 6 to 9 months. Ultimately, that should work, and the economy should slow down, and interest rates should come back down probably towards the end of the year.
Questions? Well, thank you, David and Rob. We appreciate your expertise. Does anybody last chance for questions, at least right now, before we move on to the marketing side of today's workshop? All right, well, let me bring up. All right, can you guys see that? Perfect. Well, today, like I mentioned, it is all about Facebook. For those of us that are interested in marketing and doing marketing for ourselves, or for the office we're working at, I think over the last few years we've seen a lot of social media networks kind of enter the playing field, but Facebook still remains, at least in our opinion, the best way to connect with our sphere and our community, and really build those relationships and harness those connections. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some best practices, and then I will end with some tips. So small business owners who use social networking sites effectively are truly able to promote their business in powerful ways. And a Facebook business page is one of the best ways to connect with your customers and build a following. Social connections and genuine communication are integral parts of social media, and Facebook gives you an opportunity to attach a face, a name, and a personality to your brand. So remember that as we kind of work through today's workshop, it's all about giving your brand a face, name, and a personality. But remember, whatever face, name, and personality you give your brand online and on social should also be the brand that they're seeing in person. It's an extension of who you are, not something separate. So why Facebook for business? For those of you that don't have a Facebook business page, or those of you that have one but maybe don't update it regularly, it truly is an excellent place for your customers to gather prospects, fans, referral sources. And you can provide reviews, share your opinions, voice your concerns, and offer feedback. So you can build this community by posting useful, relevant, and interesting links, asking fans to contribute. You can have contests or promotions, and you can provide a place for people to leave reviews and offer their feedback. And then, of course, you can always offer incentives to get some activity on your page. So if the Facebook page you create for your business successfully brings people together, you will no doubt develop a loyal following that will continue to grow even when you're sleeping or you're spending time with your family or you're away for a weekend. So a few things just to kind of hammer this home on why Facebook for Business is so important. Facebook can be a super effective way to drive traffic to your website. It's all about SEO. So you can post links and blogs and different things on your public Facebook page that takes people back to your website. And that is the kind of content that these different search engines look for when they are indexing all of your pages and they are putting together the list of items that people will see when they go to Google and they search, real estate agent in Muskegon. Another reason is because, you should, I never want to encourage anyone to do something simply because their competition is doing it. However, when it comes to social media, if your competition is using Facebook and using Facebook well, and you are not, you will definitely pay for not being present. But it's also important to remember that being present isn't enough. If you're going to have a Facebook page and you're going to try to compete, you need to make sure that you are updating it regularly and really investing in the social media platform and using it well. And remember that most people are on Facebook every single day. Although, there's talks about Instagram and TikTok and all of these other platforms being more popular, people still expect to see regular status updates and links and videos and information, and they still want to connect with you daily. Facebook still is the place people are going to connect with businesses. So just a few kind of back to the basics here a little bit. So again, for those of you that don't have a Facebook business page, here's a really good place to start. And then if you do have a page, make sure that your page is kind of in line with these tips. So we suggest that you use your logo or your brand icon as your profile photo, and then make your cover photo something that people will remember or people will recognize, because this is your first impression. So this is our cover photo that we had for a majority of 2021 because it was Rob and Dave's 25th year in business. They have been the face of Michigan Mortgage for so long. So we thought that was a great first impression for people to see, and it gave us a great reputation to say, hey, we've been doing this for 25 years. We have the experience and the advice and the knowledge to be able to help you. Make sure your contact information is up to date. Make sure your business is clarified in the about section. Obviously, people know what a mortgage is. So use your about section to talk about what makes your business unique, or what makes you stand out maybe among the competition. Make sure you customize your call to action. This can be a variety of things like call, message, send email, shop. So make sure you customize that to whatever best suits your needs. And then once your page has 25 likes, make sure you're creating that unique Facebook URL. So that appears right here. So ours is at We Are Mish Mortgage. So if we ever do any promotion and we want somebody to find us on Facebook, we can just say, find us at We Are Mish Mortgage. And as soon as somebody puts that in the Facebook search bar, our page will automatically pop up. So if you haven't already, make sure you have that unique URL for your business page. And for most of you, you can probably use your first and last name, as those are pretty unique and should help you kind of stand out on Facebook. All right, so a few best practices. These are some things to keep in mind that will help set your Facebook strategy kind of apart from the rest. And again, it's all about committing to doing Facebook the best of your ability and being present and being active. So tip number one, make sure you're properly sizing your images. Each image on Facebook has a different size requirement. So if you post a lot of images, take a screenshot of this, take a picture of it with your cell phone, And make sure you keep these in mind as you're posting content. The last thing you want is to create an image, and then when you go to put it on Facebook, something very important gets cropped off or taken off, or isn't seen by the intended audience. And you also want to make sure you're posting a variety of content. At Michigan Mortgage, when we first started really investing in social media, before I started, this is back when, Jill was doing it all by herself and, being Superwoman, she had kind of a calendar in place where, it's much easier to post a variety of content if that content is planned in advance. So, Jill, I think back then we had Tuesday testimonials, and we did a blog post on Thursday and a video on Wednesday. And that was to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that we were posting a variety of content that was keeping people engaged. But now that we've obviously been doing it for a few years, it comes a little bit more natural for us. But if the variety is hard for you, or finding things to post on Facebook is where your challenge is, I would definitely recommend some sort of calendar to help it be a little bit easier for you to kind of follow along. So some of the content that's working the best on Facebook right now, plain text posts. We don't see these very often anymore. Everybody is so visual. So plain text posts are really great for sparking conversation, and especially great for asking questions. There are so many cool facts related to our business that it's really fun just to ask questions. We've asked questions like, how old were you when you bought your first home? Or what was your interest rate when you bought your first home? Having everybody comment that information, you can really bring people together and get that engagement on your site. Link posts are still performing very well, and those may be the most important posts that you share on Facebook, because typically those links will take people back to your website. And that's the ultimate goal with social media, is somebody to go from your Facebook page to your website and get in touch with you. So it's all about kind of driving that traffic. So if you were with us in the our last quarterly workshop, we talked about blogs. Facebook is the #1 place that you should be sharing all of your blog content and linking back to your website so people can learn more about you. Photo posts. At Michigan Mortgage, these are some of our most engaging posts. People love to see photos of real people, kind of a day in the life, what's happening behind the scenes. So we share photos when we get our staff together, whether we're zip lining or we're celebrating the 20th anniversary with Michigan Mortgage. We're always trying to share those memories on Facebook so other people can see, that we're much more than just a mortgage company. Videos. I know that for those of you that have attended these workshops in the past, we've talked a lot about videos. We've tried to encourage all of you to film them and post them. And they continue to be incredibly, engaging on social media. They don't have to look professional. I think for a while there was kind of this myth that these videos need to be professional and they need to be, done by a camera crew and all of those things. But really, people just want to get to know you. They want to see the real you. So be authentic, build connections, and then use your videos, to kind of be more breaking news or Q&As or behind the scenes, and go live every once in a while. At Michigan Mortgage, we try to go live every quarter. It's nothing crazy. I just sit down with a couple loan officers and ask them questions. What are you seeing? What are interest rates doing? How's inventory? And then that way it is very much in the moment. We might mess up, we might laugh, we might stutter a little bit, but it kind of brings people in to the little family that we've created and allowed them to get to know us. And then of course, stories. According to Facebook, 62% of people became more interested in a brand or product after seeing it in stories across the Facebook family of apps. So when I say family, I of course mean Instagram as well. So Facebook stories, those are always engaging. You can do a lot of really cool things with them, whether they're polls or links, but experiment with those if you haven't already, because they might bring you a little bit more traffic. And here are just a few examples of some of the different content we talked about. This is one of the questions we asked. What is the most common street name in the US? We over 200 comments. I'm pretty sure most people probably Googled the answer. And quite honestly, we we didn't really care how they got the right answer. For us, we really wanted the engagement because Facebook, they really they put a lot of emphasis and a lot of weight on engagement. And for them, engagement is the comments and the shares. They want people to spend more time on Facebook engaging with the content. So if somebody's commenting, somebody's sharing, that's going to help that post get more and more traction. Here's a video, Rob and Dave, they're laughing, they're having a good time. Again, it's authentic, it's casual, it's them. Here's one of the photo posts that I talked about. This is when we, went zip lining and spent some time outdoors. And then of course our blogs, those always perform really well. Blogs are always super shareable on social media. And what's nice is it doesn't matter who shares our blog, Michigan Mortgage always gets the credit because you can see our name obviously right here. And then if somebody clicks, they're always going to michmortgage.com. So a few different ways that you can build that engagement and get additional traffic on social media. Any questions from anybody before I move on to a few more of these tips? Does anybody use content calendars or have a content strategy in place? Yep, Angela, I see your hand going up. All right. So number 3, make sure you're interacting. Again, Facebook does focus so much on that engagement that it really is about building relationships. So like and respond to comments, whether that's liking or loving or laughing. And even if it's a response, just a thank you even. That's a great way to build that engagement. Angela just said she in the chat that she threw up a question on Facebook for the fun of it. She loves that idea. Yeah, that has worked really, really well for us. For a while, we were trying to do it once a month just to see. And then if you do a trivia, like we did, the most popular state name, send somebody a $10 Starbucks gift card. People will do a lot of things for, something small like that. So yeah, questions are great. So yes, back to interacting. Make sure you're liking and responding, and don't forget to reply to messages. Facebook put out a new feature, gosh, probably almost a year ago now, where they are tracking brands and how well they respond to messages. And they're now actually displaying badges on different Facebook business pages. So you'll get a badge if your response rate is 90% or more, or if you respond in less than 15 minutes on average. So really pay attention to those messages. For those of you that are managing Facebook business pages, if you haven't already, download the Business Suite. It's the Facebook Business Suite app on your phone. I prefer that when it comes to interacting with customers.
Courtney, you're muted.
Oh no, how long have I been muted? Hopefully that long. But Facebook Business Suite. Did you hear me talk about Business Suite? Okay, perfect. So yes, Business Suite, check that out. And hopefully that makes interacting and responding a little bit easier for you. All right, so number 4, implement a video strategy. If you're going to post longer videos, it's a great idea to kind of create a short intro or a short trailer to let people know what you are going to be talking about. People don't always have 5 minutes to kind of sit there and figure out what the video is about. So do an intro so people know what content you're going to share. Don't go overboard on length. Again, sometimes it's better to keep it short. 1 to 5 minutes is great. For Facebook Lives, we tend to go a little bit longer, but keep them short and sweet while you have your audience's attention. And then just like I mentioned earlier, the importance of having the correctly sized images. Make sure you're using optimal video size for Facebook as well. They typically like a 4 to 5 aspect ratio, which for some of you probably doesn't make a ton of sense, but just keep in mind that people are watching your videos primarily probably on a mobile phone. So try to keep with that rectangular image versus the squares that are popular on Instagram. So Facebook prefers certainly the more rectangle size. And then if you stick to these best practices and you keep your video content fresh, people are definitely going to reward you with engagement that Facebook is looking for. Number 5, keep it simple and keep it actionable. One of the best Facebook marketing practices is just to keep everything simple and authentic. So your message can be short and sweet, use a neat and consistent color scheme. At Michigan Mortgage, obviously we use a lot of the green and the gray. And don't make your logo more visible than the message. So if you're sharing an image, whether you have a graphic designer that created it or it's something that you created on your own in Canva, make sure the message stands out and your logo is, much smaller and sort of kind of an afterthought almost, because we want people to really pay attention to what you have to say. And then to grab your audience's attention to engage with your posts. Again, on Facebook, it's all about that engagement. Try a few different tactics. You'll learn your audience and learn what works best for them. But ask them questions or ask for their opinions in the comment section. Arrange contests. Every December we do a gift card giveaway that gets hundreds of comments throughout the month of people wanting gift cards. Sometimes we do a back to school giveaway or just different things throughout the year that kind of coincides with what's happening in people's lives. And that's a great way to arrange contests and get people involved. You can do a live Q&A session, especially if you market the Q&A session in advance. Ask people to leave their questions 3 days in advance. Send an email to your CRM and say, hey, we're going live, on Friday. What questions do you have for us? And then make sure you're sharing information about your employees or your personal life or your work culture. Kind of bring people in to that that workplace community that you've created. Celebrate birthdays, celebrate anniversaries. Different accomplishments, different awards that you've won, to really let people know that you're much more than just a real estate agent. Number 6 is use hashtags. So in 2020, Facebook kind of began stressing the importance of using hashtags. That's how they said that your post would get increased engagement, and it would kind of boost up those metrics, similar to Instagram. But we always get the question, how many hashtags should we be including? Instagram and even TikTok now, you will see rewards essentially for a high number of hashtags. Posts, they'll have 7, 8, or 9, and use those hashtags as a way to get seen. But Scott Ayer of the Post Planner, he kind of asked the experts about hashtags when it comes to Facebook, and their suggestion was 1 or 2. So 1 or 2 hashtags per post saw the highest number of interactions. And then each additional hashtag after the second one led to a steady decline in engagement. So remember, hashtags are searchable, and they are kind of a way to categorize your content. So, let those hashtags run free on Instagram, but on Facebook, try to keep it, to 1 or 2 when possible. And then number 7, this is a question that we get asked, I would say, probably most often. is what is our strategy when it comes to boosting Facebook posts or promoting posts or running ads on Facebook. Over the last few years, Facebook has kind of become a little bit of a play to pay or a pay to play model. Whereas as soon as you start paying the platform, they want you to continue paying to see that same kind of engagement. So quite honestly, at Michigan Mortgage, we don't spend a ton of money on social media. However, if we do spend any money, we spend it boosting popular posts. So we don't run ads. We don't do ad campaigns. What we do though, do on occasion is boost a specific post. A few years ago now, I think when Mishta came out with the $15,000 down payment assistance program, that is a post that we boosted on Facebook. It was information that was important to a large number of people. It was a way for us to connect and educate, and it encouraged people to reach out to us because they wanted to learn more information. So those are the kind of posts that we've had success with when it comes to boosting. So if you want to boost a post, as soon as it's posted on your Facebook page, at the very bottom, there should be a button that says boost. As soon as you click that, you have to select your objective, website visits, direct messages, engagement, that sort of thing. You can choose your call to action, select your audience, select your budget and your duration. And the great thing about boosting is you can spend as little as $1 a day. It's not crazy expensive, but obviously the more you pay, the better engagement you get. So, I know this probably looking at this slide sounds a little overwhelming, but Facebook does make it super easy to work through the process. They'll prompt you with all of these different questions and show you how to do it as you go through to boost your posts. And then if you're going to experiment with boosting, make sure you're tracking that in the Insights tab to see what's working and what's not working, and if you want to do it again and how you may do it a little bit differently. But certainly if you're going to spend money on Facebook, this would be the way that I would suggest doing it, unless of course you have a much larger budget than probably most or even your competitors. Jill, do you have a question?
Yeah, Court, I can't remember, it's been a while, but boosting, can they go to those very specific demographics like ages, this to that, Fruitport Township? Is that where they can do that on Boost? Like if they because realtors like to farm areas sometimes, so they can really narrow in on this farm or this area.
Yeah, Facebook, I think it was late last year, maybe, they kind of updated some of their targeting options, as they call it, to get away from being able to, target specific demographics as far as like age and gender and those types of things. So definitely still can do it like location based, but especially for, our business, I think they have limited us a little bit on how specific we can get with the person and their demographic, but definitely can still do a lot of the location based.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I know a lot of realtors, if they're sending out postcards in a certain area, it might be nice to then piggyback with their Facebook, kind of going more to that area as well. So, okay, cool. Thanks.
Yes. Is anybody boosting posts? Has anybody done that recently and seen success with it that might, want to share how it worked or how it didn't work?
I don't know if you can see me, suddenly my whole Zoom went away, but I have found over the years that I also kind of made a shift, like what you were saying, that I'd read some articles somewhere that said, don't boost a post until it's already organically been out there. It's been shared, people have commented on it, there's been engagement. So I've really shifted my mind to, I'm not going to boost a post unless it's already been successful, because that means people were actually interested in. And I was just having a conversation with Marcy the other day. We were talking all about this. You have to remember to not be offended when people don't love a post that you thought was fantastic. I work on that. But yeah, boosting, I think, has become a lot more effective for me by focusing on posts that have already had popularity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great strategy. So we have a comment from Bria. She says she hasn't boosted it in a long time, probably because she hasn't really been seeing the results or wasn't seeing the results. But she agrees it's a good idea to post after you see that it's already something that's engaging. And Bria, we have the same thing happen. You know, Angela has a great point. Just because you think something is great does not mean everybody else thinks it's great. And the other, the other challenge too that comes along with boosting is like specifically for you guys, if you're boosting, your listings when something just comes on the market and there's going to be a lot of traction, so you want to boost it out there. Well, the problem then becomes, what if you have an accepted offer? What if you're 3 weeks, 3 weeks into the process? What if you're 2 days from closing and that boosted post is still coming into people's feeds? So that's also, a little bit tricky. And one thing, quite honestly, that we ran into when we boosted that Mishta post, a few years ago is it was so popular and it had done so well that we had people calling us about Mishta for months when that program was long ran out. So as marketers, what we had to do was kind of shift our message and say, hey, I know you found us on Facebook. Yes, that program was really wonderful. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. However, Mishta has X, Y, and Z that can still help you. So as long as you're prepared to kind of shift your message and have those conversations with people, if the boosted post they saw, the house already has a pending offer or something like that, just be prepared for that to shift and kind of be a little mobile as you're doing these things. All right, so kind of tip number 8, or the most important thing, just be real on social media. Really, your tone is everything when it comes to Facebook content. So be relaxed, be your genuine selves or selves, be self-aware, and just make sure that the brand that you are showcasing on social media is the same brand that somebody will see when they meet you in person. We want those things to mesh very well. At Michigan Mortgage, when we're posting on Facebook, we want people to, to know that we love our community and we support each other and we have fun and we laugh. And we want them to see that on Facebook, and we also want them to feel that as soon as they walk into our office. So keep that in mind as you work on your Facebook strategy and you develop your content and you do your blogging and all of the things that, we always talk about that I know is super overwhelming and hard to do. But, just remember that our team is always here to help. Here's my contact information, my email address. If you don't have that, shoot me questions. If you, say, hey, I just started my Facebook business page. What do you think? I'm happy to look it over and let you know, tips and tricks or some of my thoughts to help you, get that higher engagement and really make the Facebook gods happy. So they, put your content out there. Any questions before we take off? Jill, I saw your hand go up.
I'm not sure if there's anyone who doesn't have a Facebook business page, but if you don't have one yet, Courtney, is it a good idea to start their Facebook business page, like pre-post some things, like so they get their picture on there and their logo and set it all up? And then is it important to maybe have 3 or 4 posts ready to go so that when they're inviting people from their personal page over to their Facebook business page, to make sure there's like maybe something about the community, something about educational. So it's like, okay, I actually want to go over to this page rather than sending them just a blank page that has nothing. And they're like, why is she sending me this? Or he's sending me this.
Yeah.
This or something on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will agree. Most people probably have Facebook business pages, but I think where we're kind of seeing a little bit of shift now is, and it even happened in our office, at one point, I think all of our loan officers, either wanted their own Facebook business page or had their own Facebook business page. And then they realized how much work it was to actually have one. So now, our office has combined and we only have, the one Facebook page that kind of represents all of us. So we're seeing a lot of companies, I think a lot of brokerages, maybe shift over to that, where they kind of have this one corporate page. So if you're making a shift or you're creating a new page or you're updating your current page, or maybe you created a page 5 years ago and you haven't really touched it, I definitely recommend having some of the pre-planned content that Jill mentioned. Make it be a variety of content so people know what they're going to get from your Facebook page if they like it. And then when you invite people to like it, don't forget to use your CRM. I mean, we still, even after having a very established Facebook page, we will still send out emails on occasion that say, hey, if you don't already like us on Facebook, we have this really great contest coming up, or we have this great giveaway coming up. So make sure you like us so you can be involved in it. So use that CRM that you have or hopefully have. And then of course, use your personal Facebook page to get people over to your business page if you're just starting it or kind of recommitting to using it.
And then my last question, Court, is what are the ratios right now that you're seeing, like how much informational, educational, adding value things to their audience versus like a personal post about I closed this or I have a new listing or can you just say what that ratio is for people?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people get a little bit too much of their own stuff on there.
Yeah, absolutely. The rule of thumb is still that 80-20, 80% educational value added, content that will help your followers solve whatever problem they have. And then 20% is that very salesy. I will say though, not very many in our industry are following that right now. I think especially on probably the realtor front, just given the fact that inventory is so incredibly low, that we are seeing, pretty consistent like new listing information coming up, just because it's in such high demand right now. So I certainly don't want to discourage you from doing that. That is so incredibly important. But if you can sprinkle in some more educational content, whether that's blogs or videos or something like that, that certainly will help with your engagement.
Courtney, I have a question.
Yeah.
What are you thinking or feeling is their success with the business suite? I noticed recently now has where because once a week I go in and I schedule all my posts for the week, and now it gives an algorithm, I guess, of Facebook, you should post at this time, and Instagram, you should post at this time. And I guess the way I understand it, it's the people on my Facebook and my Instagram, this is directly when they're on them.
Yes.
But personally, I feel like the times are really whack. Are you finding that too? I don't know that I've done it enough now that I've trusted it enough to say, oh, I'm going to do what you say.
Yeah, I tend to feel the same way. Yes, it is. So what it is if you go to schedule a post now, Facebook will give you like optimal times, I think they call it, or something like that. Well, they're essentially saying, if you post at this day at this time, that's where you have the most followers or fans online. That's when the most people are likely to see it. But I will say though, Angela, we rarely schedule posts. We actually kind of do anything not to have to schedule posts, because we've noticed that anytime we schedule a post, our engagement is significantly lower.
Interesting.
For instance, 2 years ago now, when I was on maternity leave, one of the things I did, so Jill and Sandra didn't run for the hills when I was gone, is I scheduled all of this content for them. And I came back from maternity leave and was pretty disappointed really with the lack of engagement. And there's a reason for that. I think on Facebook, they want people to be on Facebook. So if they know that I'm scheduling 2 months of Facebook posts, that I'm not actually logging in to do any of the posting. I'm not logging in to engage and interact and like and comment and do all of those other things that I do on Facebook. So anytime that we schedule, we've seen, you know, those dips in our engagement so bad that we just have kind of shied away from doing that altogether, which I know isn't realistic for everybody. But I do have a hard time believing anything that Facebook says when it comes to scheduling, because I have noticed such a drastic difference. Any other questions? Concerns, thoughts? All right. Well, we certainly appreciate all of you guys being here today. Because you registered via Zoom, I obviously have all of your contact information. So I will send out an email that has a link to the recording of today's workshop, should you want to go back and rewatch it. And then, of course, you'll have my contact information if you need to, you know, shoot me an email or give me a call, or get some of your questions answered. Thanks again for David and Rob for giving us a market update and filling us in and all the craziness out there. And as always, you guys have marketing questions, mortgage questions, give us a call and we can help.
Everybody, have a great
Thanks,
day.
guys.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Court. All right,
Thank
bye.
you.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're the best.